Hello.
Hi.
What's up?
Welcome back to
hashtag us too. We say it so dumb. I'm SB Riverdiner, and this is
Jay Elliott.
And yeah, our podcast, we talk about whatever we want with no filter.
Because we can.
Yeah. And it's nice to be able to talk with no filter.
Yeah. So what are we going to talk about?
We're being such dumb girls. Me and Jay were like giggling before. We're like, should we talk about boys?
Yeah, we were literally like, should we talk about the Buddhist balance of all things? And we're like, no, I want to talk about boys.
I think I do want to talk about Jay has a lot of thoughts about balance in life of different energies and things, but I mean, it is sort of heavy, so we were like, maybe save it for a later episode.
Yeah. Or, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how
we'll dive in whenever we want.
Unravels.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about boys? Like how we...
Well, okay, so I don't know. I've been hooking up a lot, and...
I've been not.
It's... I don't know how it makes it. I think when it's different hooking up when you're a girl versus a boy, because I consider myself a girl now, and because of I'm like justifying it. Well, hormonally, and even physically in part now, I am more feminine. So like I'm experiencing things different than when I was just a boy, and one of those things is like sex and relationships. When I was a boy, sex would be very like immediate. I was just
like
thinking,
isn't a need.
Yeah, like I mean I still like want it now, but like when I was, even if it was just the prospect of sex, like talking to someone, let's say that I had like arranged to hook up, I would be thinking about sex the whole time. But now I'm thinking more long term. I'm thinking what happens after the sex. That would never cross my mind before.
You were just like, I just gotta fuck.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, okay, so... And then as soon as I started transitioning and changing, when it came to sex, I was like, what's in it for me? Like, I started to think, I wish you would buy me a drink first. And I'm like, wow, I'm such a girl! And... I'm thinking about what's happening before the sex, what's happening after the sex, but as a boy, I was just thinking about the sex itself. So it's like interesting, different.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been pretty cautious. I think I had a hookup phase a little bit in my early 20s, but I don't know. I've always been... And I think for a while, too, I was like, men and women are the same. And as I get older, I'm like, they're not. Like, I get that men have more of a sex drive. Because I would be like, well, I get horny, too. But I would never, like, guys are kind of dumb. Well, they'll just kind of, like, hook up with whoever. Like, they have that need is greater. And then it was sort of funny because I was talking to a few different comics about... A female comic, she was like, girl, when you get in your 30s, that need for sex, I was like, fuck, because I don't want to ever have sex again, which isn't true, but I'm going through a breakup, but I was just like, I don't know, I have such a weird relationship with sex because I was raped, but I also am like, I feel like sex can be so complicated, like anytime... And then I've been on both ends where, like, you're hooking up with someone and then someone catches feelings or, like, you're leading someone. It's just, like, I try to be very cautious with it. And I think it's so intense that I'm like, I only really want to have sex with somebody that I love. But now that I'm broken up with, I'm like, I don't want to go through a 2-year drought again. That was awful. I don't think that was good for me, like, mentally either. No one was, like, just basic touch. I was starting to feel a little crazy because nobody was like hugging me or holding me. And I was like, it wasn't even the sex. It was
it's
like
a real need.
That was making me weird. And then when I started,
I used to have to touch myself.
well, I wasn't even doing that.
I would like.
I wasn't.
Yeah, I've gone through phases where I was so antisocial, and I would like to have that. I noticed that starving for physical intimacy, not even sex, where I would like go crazy to the point where I was like touching my own shoulder like a friend.
Well, I've been doing that.
Or like
I've been like
or getting my hand, grabbing it and then kissing it as if it were someone else's.
I've also done that.
And I'm just like giving myself physical affection, not just sexual. But
yeah,
it's weird. And then you're just like, this isn't healthy.
Well, that's what I realized because I remember when I was going through like my 2-year dry spell, people were like, just do it almost to get it over with. Because it was starting to build up in my head too. I was like, do I even know? I was like, have I ever had sex? No, I was like, I don't know. But it was starting to bother me. And for a minute, I was like, I'm just not going to have sex for a long time again. I'm like, you've done it before. And then I'm like, but I wasn't happy.
Well, men and women are different also because, like you said, like the need is greater for men. And a lot of women, I think that it does, like you said, like the 30s and stuff, because your hormones change. And when you go towards menopause, your testosterone goes up. So it does make you a little more, you're ready to go. But that testosterone, man, like before I would travel like hours for good dick. Mm-hmm. I would like really go for it. I've taken a 6-hour train for dick.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's stupid. And then now I can't even leave my apartment. I'll like be talking to a guy and I'll have everything set up. He's ready to go. I'm like, he's like maybe like 5 blocks walking distance. I'm in bed. Everything is good. And I'm like, never mind. Like, I just, it's so different now.
Do you ever feel scared, like, to go? That's my thing. There have been times where I have been horny or I'd been on the apps and then I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to hook up. Like, before my ex, I had a weird thing. That's where nobody would, like, have sex with me. But then I also think, remember when I told you I was, like, trying to hook up with all these guys, and they were all like, are you a bot? And I was like, dude. I was like, just.
It's free pussy.
Yeah.
No one wants it.
Everyone, I was trying to get, basically, just being totally honest, I was scared about being in a relationship. So I was, like, avoiding it, and then I was like, I'm just going to hook up with dudes. And I hadn't. This was like during my dry spell. Mm-hmm. And then I was on the apps and I was being so forward. I was like, I just want to have sex. And these guys were like, why? And then some guys were like, wait, can't I like take you out? And I was like, are you gay? Like, what is happening? Like, I was so mad. I was like, what the hell?
Because I think for a guy, okay, so I'm trans, it's different. But for like a like a cisgender woman, mm-hmm. talking to a man, like, for you to say that is kind of creepy to them. They want to make sure that because it's different. So they're like, is she gonna give me gonorrhea? Like, what's the situation?
And then some of my friends were like, well, they're scared that they would get kidnapped or something. It's funny like that they're scared of that, where they'll get mugged or beat up. Leo and Eli was like, what if somebody comes to like rob you?
Oh, because of those stories people say about a girl
like seducing a guy and then
unlocking the door and they get robbed, kind of thing. Oh, that's crazy.
But it happens. I told you this. That song Mona Lisa by Lil Wayne.
Yeah, I've never heard of that happening to anyone in real life though.
It's real.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that happened. So I guess they're like, because I was just being so forward and I wasn't even like, let's hang out.
Because it's so unusual for a girl to just be like, I just want dick.
Yeah, and my friends were like, they're like, you're good looking, so it's like a surprise when someone's like...
Oh, yes. It's like, Yamanika Saunders has a bit about how she was on this app, Nude Africa, And the dude came to her house and he was gorgeous. And she's like, ladies, if a man comes to your house off Nude Africa and he's gorgeous, just tell him to go away because something's wrong with him. If he's gorgeous, he should be out there fucking. He shouldn't be on some goddamn app. Like, that's true. Like, whenever I'm meeting someone online, I'm like, there's something wrong with you. And that's okay, but I just have to figure out what
That's
it is.
why I like meeting people in real life. Because I feel like, too, I've met just... The only good thing that came out of the apps was I met one of my best friends. We just became...
That's cool.
Friend. Like that, and I still talk to him, like, every day.
Yeah.
And we were like, we're just friends. But that was... I'm, like, grateful to the apps for that. Because he's such a dear friend in my life. But, like... I don't know. Every other experience I've had was just negative. So I'm like, I want to meet guys, but I'm like, I want to do it in real life, I think. Like, I'm just going to force myself out.
I think that would be fun. However...
Oh my God!
different situation. Like, I think it's great if you can do it, you know? But as a trans person, for me to go out there, where am I going to go? Am I going to go to a straight bar and just, like... try to seduce a man and then he finds out I have a dick and kills me? Like, it's crazy.
That's what I was going to ask. Are you scared? Because a lot of the times,
yeah.
I didn't go with someone. Because then, like, years ago, I would use the apps and I would meet up, but I would get scared and cancel. Because I'm like, what if you hear these, like, horror stories of, like, girls getting murdered or whatever?
Well, no. I don't know. Like, it's kind of the only way I can meet people. So
on the apps?
Yeah, because how else am I going to find... Like, there's no way to tell who's interested in trans girls. I mean, even gay people have a place where you can go. You can go to a gay bar. But I don't have a trans bar to go to. There's, like, no... So I have to go to the app. And on there, it's usually just guys who are looking for sex. Because they don't take trans girls seriously, like wife material. They just want to bang them.
Damn.
Which is fine with me.
Yeah, but everyone wants love.
Do we?
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I don't think that I don't have love. I think people give me love. I would like to try relationship because I'm curious about it. But I don't know if it's like... That's something we were talking about too. Like, is this something that is like a life goal of mine to fall in love? I don't really think so. And that's something that I didn't realize until we were talking about it today. I was like, oh, I think I don't really care if I find like a life partner. I think I'm just thinking like, oh, I want a boyfriend to see what it's like because I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think that's where we differ, where I'm like, I want one. But then I hate, like, I have always gotten into a relationship. It's literally when I don't care and when I'm my happiest, when I'm doing my own thing. Because I was like, eventually I'm going to get over this guy and then someone else is going to come along. Gia's so freaking cute. My rabbit is around. She's such a pretty...
There's two
like,
rabbits in the room.
Yeah, and they're like...
Do you have anything to say?
Do you guys have... And then it's just silent for like 5 minutes. I'm like, wow, great input. No, but I feel like I do want that. Like I was telling Jay, I was like, I want a family one day. In my mind, I like being in a relationship. A lot of my relationships I've been in have been bad.
Yeah.
So I'm like, even this past one, I'm like mourning it. But then I'm like, it hasn't been that good for a while. It's been a lot of like miscommunication, like people getting depressed.
Yeah, like sometimes when something is over, even if it's for the best, it doesn't feel good. That's what we were talking
One
about.
of my friends said too, she's like, I've been in abusive relationships, break up for the better, and I still miss that guy. So she was like, of course you miss him. Like, yeah. And I have too. So I know, but it just sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I've broken up with guys because I'm like, I don't like them like that. And then I miss them. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I think it's just that human connection. But I think I'm, like, not trying to... Sometimes I'm scared to say stuff, I realize, on the podcast, because I'm like, this is not an invitation to anyone.
Oh.
I get very angry with men. This is a good thing to talk about. I get very angry when guys, like, this pisses me off. I'm, like, getting more and more worked up. When, like, if a guy at a mic talks about sex, like, people leave him alone. But if a girl talks about sex, which is part of why I don't really talk about it, to be honest. I stopped talking about sex because I noticed guys would try to, like, talk to me or be weird or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't appreciate it. It's, like, so disrespectful. Because I'm like, you would be so pissed if people randomly were like, yo, what's up? Like, if a dude's, like, talking. Like, I try to think of it this way. If guys would be mad if other dudes started, like, hitting on them. Because men are scary.
Yeah, that's the proof. Like, whenever it gets gay,
guys are like,
guys
whoa.
are weirded out. Yeah, they're like, oh, shit.
But I'm trying to write a joke about how, like, I'm pissed at my ex a little bit. Well, I don't know if he knows what he wants, but I hate feeling led on. Or, like, guys, a lot of the time, don't want to hurt girls' feelings, so they sort of lead them on instead of being straight up with them. I was like, I don't fucking get that. And then...
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that in general.
A lot of people do that, but then I wonder if it's because girls are, like, cute. Because I've had, like, women, like, pretty women hit on me, but I don't like women. And then I feel like, normally with dudes, I'm like, yo, get the fuck out of my face. With them, with women, it is harder for me to be like, no, because I feel bad.
I'll go with you.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was like. Women are, like, cute. Where, like, even, like, the rabbits, for example, I'm never getting mad at them.
Say no.
I'm like, they're so freaking cute. And it's like, women are just objectively, like, they're, like, beautiful. Men are very handsome and, like, attractive.
Sometimes.
But a lot of them are just ogres. A lot of them are gross. But I feel like women are, like, have the prettier body, their faces
naturally more beautiful,
yeah. And then men are like, ugh. Me and Jay before were talking about how they smell sometimes, and sometimes it's a good smell. But
sometimes I'm not mad about it.
Sometimes I'm like, this is nice. I feel like if anyone listens to this podcast, they're like, this is such a different side of Jay and SB.
Hopefully, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm not very like. Oof, this is maybe too personal. Whatever. I'm like, I wonder if I'm like not approachable enough, or like sometimes I don't know how to talk to people.
For who?
A lot of people.
That's crazy because I think you're so approachable.
That's crazy to me.
Well, that was kind of why I went up to you. You're not like, I don't know how to explain it. You're not, like, inviting people to... Like, I feel like I was interested in you when I met you as a person, because I liked your set.
Okay.
And I liked, like, what you were doing, and you weren't... I feel like anyone who just does their set, I'm like, this person's cool. But I feel like there's so many idiots that go up and are like, fuck this. And I'm like, why? Or they're like, I'm going to shoot up this place. Or, like, they're just scary.
Yeah,
and I'm
agree.
like, that scares me. And then, like... But yeah, when I see someone just do jokes, I'm like, oh, new friend. But I think, like, yeah, you're not unapproachable. There have been times where Jay tells me she feels very awkward. But I feel like she's, like, the glue in the conversation, like, keeping it going. She's like, oh, I felt so awkward. I don't think that's true. Okay. That you're unapproachable.
Well, it's how I feel.
That's valid.
Maybe it's not true.
I don't think so.
Sometimes feelings can be wrong.
Like how I feel unlovable. This is such a personal pod today. I start crying.
Don't start crying. I'll start
crying. No, I do. Well, that's kind of what I like the podcast for. I like being very raw and honest. But yeah. I have my deepest thing. It feels crazy just like saying this into a microphone, but I guess I do feel unlovable, and it stems back from a long time ago. It's improved, and I don't like hate myself, but there is something with like romantic relationships when they don't work out, it like kills me in a way. because I'm like, oh my God, I knew it. I was unlovable. And my therapist is like, no, that's not true. You're like focusing on the negative parts to prove to yourself, because it's like a pattern in your mind you have to break. Because he was like, there's so much evidence of people loving you.
And this is the part where I get confused, because okay, we were talking about some people we know who shall not be named are of the male species, and they have a girl who's pretty, who they would maybe fuck, who is their best friend, but they don't want to date her or whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck is the problem? Because when I was growing up, I was best friends, so close with this guy. We did everything together. And then I was like, oh my God, he even told me, and he's like a straight guy. He was like, I just need to find a girl who's just like you. Is that weird? And I was like, no, it's not weird. And then I transitioned, so where he at? But no, I'm just saying, the only problem to me was that he wasn't attracted to me. And I'm like, that's usually the biggest issue, is you're like, oh, I love this person so much, but I'm not attracted. And I'm like, okay, that's valid. You can't really control that. But if you are attracted to them and you're best friends,
what's the deal?
It's actually like shocking and scary. I'm like, what the fuck else are you looking for? Like, I'm actually like upset. Like, I don't know.
Well, that's like, I tell everyone, like, my parents' relationship is so cool, because they're not like, people who meet them, they're like, oh, they're like cool people. They're not like old. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but they don't feel like old parents. They're just like city people. They have fun. Yeah, they're vibing. They're cool. But they're best friends before anything. And my dad, like, both my parents were like, oh, that's the thing you need most, because like you're gonna get older and things are gonna change and you have to be best friends. And so I think part of it is some of these guys get nervous, like when they're friends, they're like, I don't want to ruin the friendship, because I mean, that's kind of what happened with this relationship, where it's like, you're friends, so it can be a little complicated. But I think maybe because I'm like a go-getter about stuff, I'm like, if you feel that way about someone and you're both attracted to each other, then I'm like, I don't see why not, because either way, I mean, at that point, you might as well, because you're not going to be friends anymore if someone wants to be with that other person so badly. It's not gonna. I think people, so much of the time, they live their lives out of fear.
Yeah.
And they're scared to take the risk. And I'm like, well, it's not gonna work out anyways, because, you know.
Yeah. Then you're just gonna be stuck in hell.
Yeah.
In a one-sided kind of, I'm like pining for this person situation.
But I've been in that situation a lot.
Oh my God,
I hate it.
It makes literally like I would rather die.
I'm like, but I know that's what I want, is I want whoever I find to be like my best friend, my go-to person. That's all I care about. I don't care about, I like good sex and that I want that, but I care more about the person, the relationship. I also know, like, me and Jay, I think, are lucky enough that, like, well, I was fat when I was younger, and Jay is always like, I was not cute.
Oh my God.
And so I'm like,
I looked up, I've had old pictures resurfaced thanks to my fucking brother. And he brought these pictures, he like sent them to the group chat. And he was doing like a, wow, look at the glow up for both of us, because he was fat. Mm-hmm. Like, much like you. And I was just like so pimply faced and greasy, and I almost looked like I was gonna shoot up the school for sure.
Oh my God.
And I was just like so gross, and nobody wanted to fuck me. And so like that is a change. People do want to fuck me now.
Yeah, people want to, and I'm like, leave me alone.
I'm not.
Oh
this is an open.
Oh my God, Jay! No, be careful.
No,
Jay's like.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about a lot of the time. Oh, I was telling SB. I feel like my whatever attractiveness is like smoke and mirrors. It's like a costume, because a lot of it is makeup. I've like spent a lot of time watching videos. I like spend forever on my hair and getting ready and everything. And then when it comes off, I'm like, I don't look the same. So I'm like, this is not real. Like, I'm just like a fantasy. And then when guys hook up with me, they're like, wow, you're so hot, whatever. But then it comes off and it's not the same. And I'm like, so I don't really expect anyone to like stick around.
Someone's gonna love you for you.
Yeah, because I'm definitely one of those like don't take her swimming on the first date kind of girls. Like, I'm the one you have to watch out for. So
that's not true though.
I was like, I'm never going.
You have a naturally pretty face. Jay too, because I've known her before she transitioned. I'm like, you look so much more feminine now. You already had feminine features before you started transitioning. So it's like you say that, but I don't know if you see
a change.
Like the truth.
Well, maybe, yeah.
You don't need makeup.
Girl, and I've noticed SB is very like, I don't know, liberal, and
I don't feel liberal.
She's very like, what is it? Like kind, I guess, in this regard. But I had a guy on the train tell me I looked like a Howard Stern. And this was a few weeks ago. So I'm like, wow, these hormones are really fucking working.
They're not.
This is bullshit. No, but it's only been 8 months. So I'm like, it's supposed to take 3 years. I'm not even halfway done. So, and the doctor even said I told them 3 years is what I expected. And they were like, no, more like 6. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to stick to 3 because that's crazy. I'm going to be 35 and like, I'm finally a lady. Like, that's crazy.
I don't think I'm liberal.
You are, for sure. But I mean, so. Maybe like not in the militant way that people really give.
Yeah, I'm not like insane about, and I'm like friends with conservative people. I don't like when liberals are like, no. I think we can both find love. I am so harsh on myself though too, where I'm like, I don't know, but I think I was telling Jay, I believe in the universe. I don't have like a set religion, but I guess the thing I relate most closely to is Buddhism, because I think I've sort of discovered, I don't know, I guess for lack of a better word, religion just through my life, where I see what happens. And I guess there have been times where I pray to the universe, where I ask for something and I get it. Or if I'm like, I remember like being very sad and like asking for things and then putting in the effort to make it better, but getting kind of like signs from the universe, like to keep moving in the right way. But I think I do agree with a lot of Buddhism thoughts. And in Buddhism, they're like, every living creature should be treated with love. Every object should be respected. And so that means even for yourself. So you are another living force. That's like, you should also treat yourself with love. And for a big part of my life, I wasn't treating myself with love. So now I'm trying to sort of make up. And my therapist was saying like, it's going to take a long time to make up for those years. Because I was like frustrated because I'm like, why is it so hard for me I feel more confident in myself, and I used to hate myself and I don't. I like myself at the very least. And I'll say I love myself, but there's something in me that's like, especially with romantic relationships, I'm like, you're not lovable. I'll like hear that. And I'm like, why is that there? And so I'm just working. That's kind of my goal, is to work on that and develop through that. Gia's just eating my shoe rack.
Dang,
it's
girl,
fine.
She's going to town. Okay, you might want to watch your weight, honey.
Oh my god. Gia,
can you guys hear that?
So loud.
It's a shoe rack. She's like a machine.
Rabbits chew. Also, Gia it's funny because I talk about getting a rabbit on stage. I got her in September, and people are like, since you've gotten the bunny, you've gotten so much nicer. And I'm like, she's like, I told her today, because I talked to the rabbit. I was like, you're making me a better person. But she's so sweet.
That's cute. They're so cute. I think it's nice to have cute things around the apartment.
It is.
And they're sweet. I didn't know about rabbits before we became friends. Like, I was kind of scared of them because I don't know the, like,
yeah,
etiquette.
you were worried she was going to bite you. I was like, she's not going to bite anyone.
Yeah, I was like, is she going to bite me? Is she going to run away and make me ashamed of myself? Like, I was scared.
Gia.
She is feeling...
Gia's going for the fence. Is Ollie right there? Gia's very territorial.
He's just in his box.
I don't know what she's doing. Wait, you were, like, scared?
Yeah, whenever I don't know, like, the way to treat an animal, I don't know what to... It's kind of like with people. Like, I don't know how they're going to respond, and then I'm like, what if it isn't good? I get afraid. So I don't want to interact with it until I, like, figure it out first. But they're really nice, and they like getting pet, which I was surprised.
Love it.
I thought they would be more scared all the time, but...
I think she's asking for attention right now. I'm in the middle of something. They're very, I feel like I was a rabbit in another life because, well, they're mischievous, which I love. They are like, if anyone's read Peter Rabbit and how he's stealing the vegetables, she will bounce up on stuff, rip it. She'll try to steal food. She's very mischievous. And she knows, like the other day she was on my bed, like tearing it apart. She like ripped a hole into my sheet. And then she jumped down when I opened the door. And she laid down, like, and was looking right at me, like, oh, I'm not doing anything. And I'm like, bitch, you know what you're doing. And then they're so affectionate. They're like puppies. But the thing about them that people don't know is, like, I mean, cats are skittish, too. But rabbits are particularly skittish because they're prey animals. But once you have their trust, like, they love you so much. Gia, like, needs constant love and attention, and she sleeps with me a lot of the time, or she'll jump in and, like, want to be pet. If I don't see her for a while, she gets a little anxious.
It kind of reminds me of, like, how trusting... Well, you had to kind of earn her trust first. That's the thing about rabbits, is that they're really skittish, and then Gia was kind of, I don't know if it was, like, abused, but she'd been through some stuff. So, but, like, it's kind of like with kids. Like, I was a preschool teacher, and I was just I learned so much from the kids when I was teaching, because I think even just, like, the way that they were honest... They would just say what was on their mind. Even if it was crazy or mean, they would just say it. And then I had... The first time it happened, and they were just like, that's ugly to a kid's drawing or whatever. And then I was like... Because as an adult, you, like, forget.
You filter.
Like, yeah, and it's almost like everything hinges on being polite or whatever. And then I realized I was being so dramatic as if, like, the world was going to blow up if someone was rude. And then they just said their first thought on their mind, and it wasn't nice, and nothing happened.
I hate being polite. I'm so bad at it. I think that's why I like comedy so much, because I go up and I just talk, and sometimes people are just laughing at what I'm saying, even if I'm not trying to be funny, but it's like I don't like having a filter. I've never liked that. I was always like, this is dumb. Because, like, you said, like, they say something, and you're like, oh my God, they're not being polite, but it's like, that's like people who are like have repressed emotions. It's like you're just not saying the thing because you're scared. And I'm like, if everyone just said how they felt, things would be so much easier.
It would be both. I think it would be easier and harder. It's kind of like how some cultures are way more in your face than other like Japanese people are very, like, strict with manners and stuff. And then they're crazy in the sheets with all the tentacle porn and stuff. So you're like, it always comes out somehow. And then, like, some cultures might seem more violent and they're more in your face. It's just like, I don't want to name names, but and I don't know though. Like they really like the other thing about kids that I noticed was that like if you love them, they know and they just love you right back. Like it's so easy.
Kids are not, they don't have like pain.
They're not
yet.
what is it? Damaged.
That's what I mean, because that's why I'm like so skittish.
Yeah.
Is because I've been through a lot. I think that's why me and Gia relate so much, because we've been through a lot together, and then now we just trust each other. So, because she like, there's such a bond. Because I was not gonna keep her. I was like, I'll just keep her here until somebody adopts her, and then she was like, I always tell Jay how to get closer with someone. You have to be vulnerable, so you have to share something. And I felt like Gia was the one to be like vulnerable with me first in a way, where she started following me around and then like asking to be pet, and I was like, oh my god, she loves me. And so I was like, aw, and then I started just loving her back.
Maybe it's like that with adults.
It is.
It's slower, but it's like that with anyone where like if you love them, then they'll love you back. But it's so hard. Sometimes it takes forever for you to love them, and then they really have
break
like
your
a
heart.
fucking chip on their shoulder, and then you have to kill them. No. But,
well, I mean, some people get so broken that you can't love them. Because I used to try to love guys that were fucked up, and then that was a disaster.
That's what the fear is, where you're like, what if I'm wasting my time? What if I'm like hurting myself more by being vulnerable? And that's, I think, why people are like hiding and stuff.
You have to be vulnerable. I don't see, like, I've been heartbroken a lot. And I remember at one point in my life, I got so jaded and hard. It was before I moved here. I was, like, vicious. And then I moved here, and people were like, whoa, this girl is a cunt. Like, I was so mean, but I was so scared of everyone. And I moved here, and I was like, I'm not going to have friends. I'm just going to do comedy. And then I was, like, shocked when, even with me being, like, a bitch, I felt like, and, like, very standoffish or explosive, people were still like, you want to get coffee? And I was like, what?
Yeah,
like, how
that's
do you...
crazy to me.
Because I was like, no one's going to approach me. But I think the people that did approach me had been through, like, the same pain. And they could kind of see through it.
Yeah, because at least you're, like, having an outlet. Because if I was really trying to make people leave me alone, that's not the way to do it, is to be a bitch or, like, call attention to yourself. The way that I always kept people away from me as a trans person, having to hide and having to, whatever. My way was you have
quiet.
to be, like, very bland. Mm-hmm. So you're, like, there, and that's it. And people think of you generally fine, but you're not too good and you're not too bad, and people just kind of don't really think of you that much.
Yeah. I think I was trying to be off stage. I wouldn't talk to anyone, and I would just leave. But then on stage, I think my personality has always come out, and I've always tried to be very honest. I wasn't as good at comedy as I am now, so it wasn't... I don't know if I was as on... I don't really remember. But I do remember people after I went through a big breakup that I feel like I was telling Jake, I was like, I fall in love. And then I've been in love a lot. Within the past 4 years, I'm like, it was like 5 boys.
What?
Yeah.
You whore.
No, I was actually in love with.
That's good,
and then
though.
I, like, dated. Is it? Because I'm
you're
like...
being open. And you're like... I'm just kidding.
Yeah, 5 boys that I was, like, in love with.
Oh, God. I wish...
That's a lot.
I thought for me it was a lot because, like, I was in love with... Oh, I almost said his name. Whatever. I've been in love with, like, a few guys over the course of my life. And a lot of them were just people I was close to, like roommates or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is exactly who you don't want to be in love with. But it hasn't... I don't think recently I've been in love with anyone. I did develop feelings for some people that I hooked up with. I don't know what it was, but I just, like, wanted to keep seeing them. And I thought, like, my heart would flutter or whatever when I thought about them. And then that didn't work out.
Damn.
Although recently...
How long ago?
Did I have those feelings?
Yeah.
right when I was starting to transition. So like,
Okay.
whoa, that was like 6-8 months ago.
So much has changed.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That was when me and Jay became like close friends.
Yeah, SB was the person who really like kind of launched my career as a woman.
Career.
Yeah, so we were friends, I think, a little bit before that. So we've been friends probably total, like, 10 months?
Mm-hmm.
It feels longer.
It feels like a lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, because we get along so well. I think we're similar.
It feels like pretty natural.
Yeah. I kind of feel like that way, though, about a lot of my friends. Because I'm like, our, like, main group... I mean, I've been friends with them for I've known them for almost 3 years, but I was, like, being a bitch, and they were like, no. And then, so I guess I've been close friends for, like, 2 years. But it does feel longer. Where I don't know, I just think of them as, like, family at this point. But... it's also kind of funny to me it's good to talk to people about your feelings because I'm like, I'm unlovable. And then I just keep falling madly in love with these guys. And then and I'm like.
Well, and then also like they hook up with, you date them.
Yeah.
You date them. I don't, and you're like, oh, they don't love me. And it's like a 6-month relation. I'm like, I've never been with anyone that long. I've hooked up with someone maybe like 5 times. Maybe I'll see someone like 5 times. And then I don't know what happens. Then I don't know.
I think I fell in love with someone that there was no physical
chemistry.
Well, I'm thinking, when I say I fell in love with someone too, I'm not talking about like physical relationships either. I'm just saying this is the amount of times I've fallen in love.
Damn, that's
within the
fucked.
past.
Not that everything is about sex. I keep bringing it back there. But how are you gonna be a horny person and not attracted to someone, but yeah, you stay with them? How does that work? You like,
well, I don't know.
And then you run to the closet.
It was annoying because run to the closet. That was very frustrating because they were like, "You're pretty," and I was like, I was like, "Okay, so what's the problem?" But whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, Jay's like filtering through the men in my life. Yeah, but I guess I really want a best friend. That's why it's hard because like a couple of my friends have been like, you should try to just meet like strangers and then go on dates with them. But I'm like, it's a pain in the ass because I hate losing friends, like if a relationship doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I want a best friend to be... I guess I'm scared to... Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I could like have a boyfriend and then go from like the romantic part into the best friend part. I've never had a relationship like that.
That's weird. I thought about that too. I'm like, how do you even become friends?
Yeah.
Like because I'm not doing anything with you to where I would like learn to respect you. Right? Like, what are we doing? We're just fucking and then we go out on dates? Like, these dates are bullshit. I'm just talking to you and I'm talking to you like a family, like an extended family member. Like, it's so boring. I'm like telling you about where I grew up. And I've thought about this too, where I'm like, these dates that I go on aren't conducive to me really creating a relationship with anybody.
That's what I mean. So it's hard for me to be like, I want to meet people.
I want to see them doing what they do best. I want to be impressed by whatever they care about. I want to like see them in a social setting.
I want to see how the thing about guys too is if they're with a lady and they're trying to impress her, they're going to act sweet as hell. I've seen guys, this scares me.
They're fake.
Where they're fake as hell.
Yeah.
And they'll say whatever to try to get you. And I'm like, no.
This goes into the balance. Mm-hmm. Because I remember this. I always think about things in terms of balance. I don't know if anybody will relate to this, but how long have we been talking?
We're almost at 45.
Okay, cool. I think of everything like a give and take, like a bargain. That's what I think about. I'm like, what am I paying and what am I getting? So if a guy is if I'm getting all this love and affection, what am I giving? And I'm like, okay, so he probably is trying to get me. And that means that once he does, all this isn't gonna continue, because then I have nothing else to give him.
Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's just like not? Because that's what I keep wondering. I'm like, do they just burn out? Do they all burn out? But I'm like, some of them don't, because I feel like my dad didn't with my mom. And then I see like my brothers, whenever they're dating a girl, they're very good to her. And some of my guy friends that are good to their girlfriends. I'm like, what? How do I know? Like, I don't want it to fizzle out.
I've just realized I have a new goal. It's to become friends with a man. Because I think my whole teenage and adult life, I've sexualized men, but I've never been friends with them. It's kind of like a reverse toxic masculinity. I have a toxic femininity. Like I don't consider we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
But like I have history with like men in my life being shitty, and I grew up hating men and not wanting to be one. And now I'm realizing, like, no, men are actually people. It
with
turns
feelings.
out, yeah, and they can be cool. And I was friends with a boy before puberty, and then like once the hormones kicked in, it just made everything weird. But now that I'm like a girl hormonally, like it really like changed. I feel more empathetic. I feel like more chill. The kind of like crazy sex crazed gay part of my brain is turning off, which feels good, and I can more relate to people. So that's my goal, is to just be friends with guys, because I haven't been able to do that. I feel like it would be nice.
It would be nice. It would also be nice to not be friends with comics. We have such a weird life. I don't know who's listening to this. I'm sure it's comics, but I think my goal now is to meet regular people.
So you can learn that they're boring and go back. I think...
No, I do enjoy, like... I mean, I used to have teacher friends. I still, like, text, and I love them.
I have, like, not a lot of my friends... Okay, first of all, I don't have a lot of friends. I have, like, you're probably one of my top 3 friends. And then I have two friends from college. That's pretty much it.
Well, that's all you need. You don't need more than... I feel like I think of you and then the boys. I'm like, these are my best friends.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, and then I have friends from college, sure, but we're not talking every day. And then I guess Brian from Texas.
It's weird, too. Like, I have a friend from college. I roomed with him. Both gay, both of us, at the time. That's why we decided to... Because we were at some kind of mixer to find your roommate. And I was like, ooh, gay. Let's be roommates. We did become roommates. Then, during our tenure as roommates, I thought he was, like, kind of bitchy, and I didn't like him that much. Because he would make all these, like, comments that were kind of, like mean to... And he kind of seemed, like, conceited, and I was like, ew, like, he's kind of one of those gays. And I don't like it. And he's very attractive. And I was like, okay, so he's, like, one of those attractive gays who's, like... I cannot stress this enough. There's nothing more, like, entitled and, like, delusional than a attractive gay man.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's actually actually crazy how, like, much power an attractive gay man has. Because the other men fucking worship them. It's crazy. Anyway, so turns out we just stayed friends. And then we text, like, every day.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't even try to pursue that at the time.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay.
Well, I mean, that would be weird, too, because you're roommates.
Well, I mean, even a friendship. And
a friendship.
When we stopped being roommates, I was like, okay, that's it. You know, I didn't think we were going to stay friends or anything. But then he just kept texting me, and you never know. Sometimes people just want to be friends.
I've learned, like...
And now it's great.
it's funny how I'm so many people think I'm so standoffish, and I am, but I love meeting people and having friends, and I have like my close circle of friends, but then I have my friends outside of that, like people I know or I work with.
You talk to a lot of people.
Yeah. So I feel like I do feel very loved, and I try to be. A lot of people will say, like, don't. It's good to only be vulnerable with like people around you. I don't mind. I'm not gonna spill my guts to everyone, but I am very open. I think like I talk about how I'm feeling on stage, but I don't mind being like honest. I think with most people, which I like about myself. If I start talking to someone, I'm like, if I'm gonna talk to you, I'm not gonna like half-ass it. I'm just gonna be honest about how I'm feeling or whatever.
I think I can delude myself, which I try not to. It's like an active kind of process, but in general, I think honesty is refreshing because I grew up denying myself and lying to everybody around me to like survive or whatever because I was trans and it was just not okay. But now I've become like almost ill. If I have to lie, I just like really hate it because it reminds me of like pretty dark
I
times.
can't either. I think when I was lying, that was when I was like dealing with my eating disorder, and then I was drinking, and it was like everything was like a fog or cloudy, and I was like sort of living this weird. I remember waking up to it and being like, my life isn't like real. Like I didn't know what was real, and I was lying a lot, and I was like, I don't ever want to live like that again because things got too confusing for me.
Honesty it clears up a lot of problems.
Yeah.
If people were just honest. I mean, if you watch any sitcom, a lot of the like bullshit that happens is just people not being honest with each other. Like,
well, it's me being dishonest has hurt so many. Like, I'm very close with my parents now. I've never imagined like being as close as I am. Like I talk to them about my relationships and like what I'm doing. And I feel like I don't really have a filter anymore with them, which I never would have imagined. But I used to not at all. I didn't talk to them for a long time because, we would butt heads, but I was like, understandably, everyone messed up. I think my parents messed up sometimes and I messed up, but I was like, when I was drinking and stuff, I wasn't easy to deal with. So it's like, I get why there was a lot of resentment or we felt like we couldn't trust each other for a long time. But then I just started I was like, fuck it. Even if it's weird at first, I'm just going to be honest.
yeah.
And even if they don't like what I have to say, I was like, I feel like I used to always hide stuff from them. And I was like, I don't want to hide anymore.
Yeah. I got to a point where I was like, oh, like my parents just don't like me. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. I was like, if I'm not even being myself, if I'm going to be disliked, I'm at least going to be disliked for who I am.
That's how I feel.
Like, this is bullshit. The fake me sucks.
People are always not going to like you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And then if you're being fake and people don't like you, you're like, I might as well just be myself. Yeah. There's like, who's that actor? Do you know that movie with like the mask or whatever?
Yeah. Jim Carrey?
Yeah. I think he was the one, he was like at a college where he gave that speech about like pursuing what you love. And he was saying how his dad was like, I think he worked in a factory or something and he hated it. And he had wanted to do acting stuff or art stuff. And then he didn't because he was like, I need to make money. Mm-hmm. And then the factory like shut down. He was like, you can fail at doing something you don't love. Yeah. Like you might as well go after what you love. Yeah. And I feel like that's the same way about just us being ourselves. It's like, yeah, people aren't going to like
fake you
yeah.
either.
So just be yourself. Who gives a shit?
It's like yeah. What was I going to say? No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. I just realized that. It was like, there's people who are living ingenuine lives and their life sucks. And you're like, dude, this is so much wasted energy. Like, you might as well just be yourself, and because it's gonna be bullshit all the time.
Well, that's what I hate when people. I hate apathy. I hate it more than if someone's gonna be a cunt. I would rather someone be mean and know how they feel. I respect that more. Like, I remember I was friends with this girl who was kind of a bitch in high school, and I was like, I like her though, because she knew who she was.
Yeah.
I hate apathy, and I always think about, like, in Dante's Inferno, they talk about the 7 layers of hell, and there's one layer of hell people were, like, confused about, because we were reading this book in school.
Okay.
And they were like, there was, like, apathy was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, because you can't make up your mind about what to do. You can't help. Like, I hate when people are just helpless or don't know how they feel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's your fault because you haven't confronted your feelings and you don't, like, I have such a sense of, like, we're here on Earth for a little bit of time and then we're going to be gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, you might as well feel everything you can, I think. I don't know. I have a sense of, like, urgency. Maybe, I think you and I have that sense of urgency because we've been through, like, horrible things where we're like, I could be dead. But
And also, I feel like I missed out on a lot.
I do too. So, yeah, I feel that way too.
So we're like, oh, I want to, like, try new things. I want to, like, live.
Yeah. And I want to know how I'm feeling and fight, like, because I've been depressed a lot of my life, and I'm not depressed anymore. I'm still working on things, but I'm like, I saw some, like, video. I think it was Eric Thomas. He's, like, one of my favorite motivational speakers. He was like, it's hard, you know, trying to fight your depression. It's hard, like, going to therapy. He's like, you know what else is hard is, like, being sad. Like, It's like, are you going to just be sad, or are you going to fight for the other hard? Like, everything's hard.
Yeah, everything's hard.
And so I was like, he's right. So I'm just going to try and put my energy into the stuff that's going to help.
There's always going to be bullshit, so I'll just do the fun bullshit.
The fun bullshit.
I had depression too. I was in college in my bed at night crying every night, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why do I feel this way? And then like, you think. And your brain is like a maze. You never know which way's out. But then this time I just found it out. I was like, oh, I feel this way because I punish myself for doing anything. I'm like, anything good or bad, I always punish myself and make myself ashamed of what I do. And this isn't this isn't productive. I think at one point I was, like, shamed by my parents, and then I took it upon myself to shame myself before they could.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, now they're not here, and I'm just shaming myself for nothing. And I just feel like shit all the time. So I was like, this is, like, what I've built up as my conscience. So I just need to, I think there's a fear there where I'm like, oh, if I get rid of this, then if I'm not ashamed anymore, then I'm going to be a terrible person because I'll just make all these decisions.
I think that too. Like, me and Jay have talked about how we've had to be in survival mode for a lot of our life. And so then when you're in survival mode, you're not, like, thriving.
No.
Like, I remember I would do the same thing where I was, like, punishing myself, or I would, like, restrict my eating severely, like, to drastic measure. Like, I would just punish myself. And then I was like, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And, like, you told me how you would, like, clutch the doorknob so intensely it, like, hurt your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I get that.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I don't have to, like, hold on to stuff so intensely.
You learn, like, oh, I don't have to be in pain. It's strange. Sometimes people don't know that. They're like, oh, I just always have to suffer.
You get used to it, too. And then you kind of want...
And then
it's comforting.
I was sick for a while, and my stomach was always in pain. So I didn't really know that I was hurting myself a lot of the time. But then I started taking this one medicine. That didn't fix it, but it made me stop hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just would, like, be walking down the street and stop and be like, and did I forget my keys? What did I forget? And then I'd be like, oh, I'm not in pain. I felt like I was missing something.
Yeah.
And then you just get so used to it.
Well, I was depressed for so long that I didn't remember what it was like to be happy.
Yeah.
And so then some people are like, oh, you've done a lot of work on yourself to get happy, you know, but I feel like mushrooms helped me with that. I like, my first time I was, like, tripping, and I was happy, and I was like, I'm capable of this feeling. I knew it was
I've heard of
the mushrooms. I was like, oh, and it wasn't like the drug. It was like, oh, I can be happy. And then ever since then, I have been
Sometimes drugs
happier.
are good. And that, if there's anything you take away from this
Drugs
podcast,
are good.
Drugs are good, children. That's how I learned that I like sucking dick.
Oh, yeah.
I did Molly, and then a guy asked me to go down on him, and then I realized I liked it.
Sometimes it shows you, what I like about like psychedelics is they show you another perspective.
Yeah, they change your brain.
They shake things up a little
Yeah.
bit.
Sometimes that's good.
Yeah.
Not in the addictive way, but
Just a little.
it's a little bit. So try heroin. No.
How are we feeling? Should we wrap up?
Yeah, I feel like we've covered a lot.
We've covered a lot today. Gia's just throwing litter everywhere. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but my rabbit is
tossing her shit.
She literally is just throwing. Okay, I will. She's just throwing. She's getting active. So where can we find you?
Oh,
Social media?
_JAY Elliot 2 L's 1 T.
Got it. And then I don't know what she's doing. Okay, and mine is at SB Rivadeneira. It's at ESPIRIVADENEIRA. And I think that's our podcast, our second one.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Second is the best.
Yes.
Bye, you guys.
All right, bye.